Greetings, humans of the internet. Welcome once again to Bowtie Talks. I, of course, am your excellent host, Luke Johnson, coming to you as usual from undisclosed location, Midwest USA, with some more historical insights. And since last week's episode was about the history of German immigration and German immigrants in this country, now would be a good time to discuss another influx of Southern European immigrants to the United States, and that, of course, would be Italy. Because October is also Italian History Month as well as German Heritage Month in this country. And Italy has given us many, many great things. Pizza, sports cars, just to name a few things, and of course, many, many great Italian American entertainers like Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Al Pacino, and too many others to name. So please join me as I discuss the history of Italian immigrants and Italian immigration in this country. I know this may be a bit strange to hear, but we have Italian unification to thank for Italian immigration to the United States. It surged during the late 19th century, largely due to economic hardships and political instability in Italy. And as Italy transitioned following its pre-mentioned unification in 1861, many Italians found themselves grappling with dire economic realities. The 1870s and 80s in particular marked a challenging period, especially in the southern regions of Italy like Sicily, Calabria, and Naples. And despite the promise of economic growth following unification, the reality of many Italians was vastly different. The newly unified Italian state faced numerous challenges in integrating its diverse regions, which resulted in uneven economic development. Southern Italy remained afflicted by poverty and underdevelopment, and the agrarian economy in these areas struggled and was characterized by poor soil quality, outdated farming techniques, and insufficient infrastructure. Many small farmers and laborers found it increasingly difficult to make a living, which led them to consider migration as a viable option for a better life. By the late 19th century, the allure of America as a land of opportunity became irresistible. The availability of jobs in growing industries and urban centers promised a chance for economic stability. Many Italians embarked on this journey not only seeking work, but also hoping to escape the political unrest that lingered in the wake of Italy's unification. The political landscape was fraught with instability, and corruption was rampant, which left many citizens disillusioned with their prospects for improvement. And as transportation became faster and more affordable, the exodus from Italy intensified. Many immigrants traveled in third-class or steerage accommodations, enduring a grueling journey across the Atlantic. These cramped quarters were located at the bottom of the ship, where metal bunks were stacked in rows. Sort of like how the Irish came over here in the coffin ships, which I talked about during my first episode of Bowtie Talks. And these cramped quarters were located at the bottom of the ship, where metal bunks were stacked in rows. The conditions were far from comfortable. These beds were fitted with straw mattresses, and pillows often doubled as life preservers. Passengers faced seasickness, cramped conditions, and uncertainty about their future, yet their hope for a better life propelled them forward. And despite the challenges many of them, or most of them, faced during the journey, the majority of Italian immigrants maintain close ties to their families back home. The U.S. Government Commission on Italian Immigration estimated in 1896 that these immigrants sent or took home between $4 million and $30 million each year. The money not only provided vital support to their families, but also demonstrated the strong familial bonds that persisted despite physical distance. Nearly half of these Italian immigrants would eventually return to Italy, but today's Italian-American community descended from those who decided to remain in America. They brought over their families and created ethnic enclaves in northern cities and small industrial towns in Pennsylvania and Ohio. And just what kind of people were coming here from Italy? Well, the majority of them were farmers and did not have much experience in industries such as textiles and mining. The laborers who did work in the industry had come from the textile factories in Piedmont and Tuscany, Italy, and mines in Umbria and Sicily. And though the majority of them were laborers, a small population of craftsmen also immigrated to the United States. However, they made up less than 20% of all Italian immigrants and enjoyed a higher status than that of the laborers. The majority of the craftsmen from the South could read and write. They included carpenters, bricklayers, masons, tailors, and barbers. And this now gives us a moment to discuss one of the most iconic pieces of American history, the Statue of Liberty in Ellis Island. Now, before the gates of Ellis Island welcomed millions of immigrants, the immigrants would enter New York City through Castle Garden, which operated from August 3rd, 1855 to April 18th, 1890. And this early processing center was responsible for meticulously recording detailed information about each newcomer, including names, the vessels they arrived on, their intended destinations, and the amount of money they carried. However, as the influx of immigrants grew, Castle Garden struggled to maintain order and safety. And by the time Ellis Island opened its doors on January the 1st, 1892, it became clear that a new facility was necessary. Castle Garden, which was once a bustling reception center, had deteriorated into a decaying fortress which was plagued by crime. New arrivals faced not only the challenges of starting a new life, but also threats from pickpockets, armed robbers, and swindlers lurking in the shadows, eager to exploit their vulnerability. These conditions made it clear there was a need for a more organized and secure immigration process. With the opening of Ellis Island, a new chapter began for immigrants, particularly for Italians, who would become the largest group processed at Ellis Island. Over the next several decades, millions of individuals seeking a better life would pass through its gates, making it a symbol of hope and opportunity. On arrival, each immigrant was assigned a unique number and underwent a systematic sorting process that was both rigorous and daunting. At Ellis Island, these immigrants faced a series of inspections that included physical and mental evaluation. Doctors conducted examinations to check for contagious diseases and other health issues. A failed eye exam or the appearance of being too weak for a manual labor job could result in being marked for deportation back to Italy. Many newcomers were placed in quarantine for a day or two if they exhibit minor illnesses, heightening the stress of the already challenging transition. Beyond health checks, officials assessed immigrants' ability to find work in the United States, which was a crucial factor in determining whether or not they could stay. However, for those who successfully navigated these inspections, the reward was great. Once cleared, immigrants boarded ferries that would take them across the harbor to the bustling streets of New York City. Ellis Island became more than just an entry port, it was a vital gateway to the American dream. The stories of countless Italian immigrants began there, and as they stepped on to American soil for the first time, they were filled with hope, determination, and the promise of a brighter future. Due to the large number of Italian immigrants, Italians became a vital component of the organized labor supply in America. They comprised a large amount of three labor forces: mining, textiles, and clothing manufacturing. In fact, Italians were the largest immigrant population to work in the mines. In 1910, 20,000 Italians were employed in mills in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. And as is the case with so many ethnic groups in America, they began to settle in areas with like people. And upon arriving in the United States, nearly one-third of early Italian immigrants chose to settle in New York City, which created vibrant enclaves that would shape the urban landscape. These immigrants spread throughout the city, establishing communities and neighborhoods like Brooklyn, the Bronx, and various towns in northern New Jersey. However, the most significant concentration of Italian immigrants could be found in lower Manhattan, which would become known as Little Italy. It was a lively hub where the spirit of Italian culture flourished. Streets like Mulberry Street transformed into bustling thoroughfares filled with Italian street vendors, market stalls, and small family-owned businesses. Residents communicated in various Italian dialects, weaving together the threads of their diverse origins. Part of what makes America great. And in some instances, entire families from the same village in Italy could find themselves living in the same block or even within the same tenement building, creating tight-knit communities that provided comfort and familiarity in a foreign land. However, life in these tenements was far from idyllic. The housing was typically low price, overcrowded, and poorly constructed. Many of these apartments were underventilated and lacked basic amenities, such as windows and indoor plumbing. The living conditions were not good, to say the least. What kind of work did these people do? Well, most Italian immigrants in America arrived with limited professional skills, having primarily worked, as previously stated, as farmers in their homeland. Their background meant that many were qualified for only unskilled labor. Nevertheless, they played a crucial role in the burgeoning American economy, providing the essential workforce needed in factories and mines. Their labor was instrumental in constructing the nation's infrastructure. They helped to build roads, railroad lines, dams, tunnels, and various public works projects. By 1890, an astonishing 90% of the workers in New York City's Department of Public Works were Italian immigrants. Showcasing their significant impact on development in cities like Chicago, the presence of Italian labor was even more pronounced. During the 1890s, an overwhelming 99% of street workers were of Italian descent. And in addition to unskilled labor, many Italians also found employment in skilled trades, like barbering, masonry, and shoemaking. And interestingly, that is how the whole Italian barber stereotype got started. Because this was during the time when barbering correspondence courses were offered, and you could learn how to be a barber through mail. And the Italians also began to create support groups. These included Italian-American mutual aid societies, churches, and social clubs that helped play a vital role in supporting newcomers and helping them adapt to their new environment. Mutual aid societies were particularly important for Italian immigrants, providing essential services such as financial assistance, job placement, and legal aid. These organizations helped newcomers access resources while preserving their cultural heritage. Churches served as community anchors, offering spiritual guidance and a gathering place for social events. They became centers for religious education and cultural celebration, reinforcing a sense of identity amidst the challenges of assimilation. And one of the most cherished traditions that emerged from these communal efforts was the celebration of festivals that honored Italian heritage. Events like the Feast of San Gennaro in New York City have become iconic, drawing thousands of attendees each year. These vibrant festivals not only showcase Italian culinary delights, but also highlights the rich cultural traditions of the Italian American community. It features parades, live music, and of course, an abundance of food. Italians also made significant contributions to American cuisine, transforming the culinary landscape of the nation. Dishes like pizza and pasta, which were once regional specialties, have become staples of American cuisine. The introduction of espresso and traditional Italian desserts have also added to the diverse culinary fabric of the United States. Pizzerias and Italian restaurants began to proliferate, not only satisfying cravings for authentic Italian fare, but serving as community gathering places where traditions and stories could be shared. And I think it goes without saying that the impact of Italian immigrants on American culture greatly exceeds beyond food and festivals. They contributed to the arts, music, and literature, and have enriched the American cultural landscape. Notable figures such as Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and countless others have left indelible marks on music and storytelling, celebrating their Italian roots while contributing to a broader American cultural narrative. Hate to say it, folks, but looks like I'm gonna have to wrap things up again. What have we learned? Well, I think we've learned that the journey of Italian immigrants definitely shows the spirit of American resilience. They overcame adversity, built supportive communities, and celebrated their heritage, and that has left a lasting impact. And I would like to thank the people at myitalianfamily.com, the Library of Congress, and flavorofitaly.com for the information I used to make this podcast. Thank you, goodbye, and God bless.